many wounds is too much? How many scars will it take? How many battles can I survive, yeah, before I embrace? Taking, you take a little more. Now my own heart doesn't feel anymore. Searching, I'm searching, I long for something to cure my withered heart. My withered heart. My withered heart.
Welcome everyone back to the Vampire Shard. I am talking louder because I am very quiet for this stupid videos. Like I said, I am going to be rereading all of these as soon as my voice is fixed, of course. And I am going to be very loud when it comes to it. Right now, I am hoping that you can hear me blasting through your ears because I am a quiet child. Alright, back to the reading. So we have some pretty interesting stuff going on. As you can see, we have Zalgo here with Scarlet. They look like they're about to go in battle. We have Ben fighting a demon. We have Mary yelling in the background. We have Dennis, Lazari, and Herobrine. I don't know how to get rope, so they're tied up right now in the background. As we all know, Scarlet was having some weird gold transform her. So that's why she looks like that. And there is a secret to why she looks like that for her outfit. Mary, I know you guys were told she had black and brown hair, but there is another secret that you guys don't know about with Mary that you will find out today. I am going to be reading as much as I can. I looked over. We are at page 50. There are only 58 pages left. 8 pages left in this book for me to read. So we are going to read whatever is left, and that will be it. And I won't delete the videos until I fully uploaded the whole thing of me reading the book. I'm also going to put subtitles on. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure this is going to be perfect for you guys. Alright, let's get into it. Scarlet looks at her legs and noticed her feet were starting to turn to gold. Scarlet collapsed the moment she loses all feeling in her feet. Brian quickly scoops Scarlet up and carries her. "Thanks," Scarlet said. Brian looks at her and smiles. They continue walking. Mike looked at Ben and Brian. "Since Mary told you her story, why don't you tell us yours?" Mike asked. Ben turned his head and shrugged. "It's quite funny, actually," Scarlet said. Mike smiled. "It all started before school ended. On the last day of school, my teacher was killed and I was injured. I had a scar on my head and in my back because of this. Within my back held a crystal shard we soon found out kept me alive. Not long after, we came across my family. We slowly started putting pieces back together," Scarlet said. Brian smiled at Scarlet. "Now we are on a mission to get the crystal back in order for me to live," Scarlet said. Mike looked at Mary, concerned. "So, without that crystal, I'm just a girl filled with blood that's slowly turning to gold and dying," Scarlet said. Mary ran next to Brian and held Scarlet's hand. "You helped me become one to my father. You helped me become open to my new father. It's time for me to help you save your life," Mary said. Scarlet smiled. Brian stopped and slowly everyone else did too. "Why are we stopping?" Mike asked. Brian turned his head and smiled. Brian waved his hand in the shape of a door, saying words that are hard to understand. Hold on, I'm reading something. I just got a text. Hard. Okay, that was a confusing message. Anyways, a large portal opens in front of us, leading to a lava-filmed realm. Welcome to my home, Brian said. One by one, they stepped through the portal. Where are we? Ben asked. Everyone but Herobrine examines the realm they entered. Welcome to the Nether, my kingdom that Zalgo took over, Brian said. Ben looks at Brian shockingly. You mean you created all of this? Ben said. Brian looks at him and nods. They walk down a pathway leading to some type of fortress. At the end held a floating white creature. Mind to give us a ride? Brian asked. The white creature looked at Brian and smiled. Of course, anything for our original king, the creature said. The creature expanded its body for all of us to fit. Everyone climbed aboard and sat down. Where to? The creature asked. Brian looked at the creature. My old throne, Zalgo's castle, Brian said. The creature laughed of joy. Of course, sir, he said. Soon enough, they were floating over the Nether. Brian laid me down on the creature to absorb my body. It's getting worse, Brian said. Where am I? Brian turns his head towards the creature. Is it possible we can do max speed? Scarlet here is running out of time, Brian said. The creature nodded. They soon started moving max speed, flying through the Nether like nothing. Scarlet looked at the faces around her and slowly pulled something out of her pocket. It's the ball Jack gave me, Scarlet said. She stared at the ball, slowly rolling it across her hand. I never got to see what kind of power this holds, Scarlet said. The creature slows down and lets us off in front. Be safe, my king. I noticed Zalgo bringing people in earlier, the creature said. Herobrine picked up Scarlet. Don't worry, my friend, Brian said, placing his hands on the creature. I'm not going to die today, Brian said. The creature smiled and went on his way. Scarlet's eyes started to change to the color of gold. Her whole body was almost completely gold. They climbed the stairs to Zalgo's castle and noticed something on the stairs. It was a piece of blue sweater that Rake has. Ben examined the cloth and confirmed it being Rake's. What is it? Mary asked. Hold on. I'm just letting know whoever texted me. I have no idea what they mean. Never mind. Mary asked Brian. Brian started to rush up the stairs with Scarlet, slamming the front doors open. There was Dennis, Rake, Zach, Bowen, all tied up. They looked frightened. He looked left and right of him and walked more inside. Watch out, Zach yells to Brian. Brian turns his head and Zalgo hits him right in the head, causing him to drop Scarlet and fall to the ground. Let go of me, Mary was yelling. Mary and Mike were being carried by Zalgo's guards, bringing them to Zach to tie them up. Ben runs up the stairs to Scarlet. Zalgo grins and kicks Ben aside, causing him to black out. Sandy and Ellie were holding onto Lazari, holding her back to let her watch and observe. Puppeteer sat on the floor, observing what was going to happen. Scarlet tilts her head to see everyone. Look who we have here, everyone! Scarlet Fire Shield, Zalgo said. Lazari looked at Scarlet. What happened to her? Lazari yelled. Dennis looked at Lazari. It's the effect of the crystal shard. It's slowly killing her. The longer that she doesn't have the shard, Dennis said. Lazari looks at Dennis and a tear fall down Lazari's cheek. What's wrong, Scarlet? Can't fight? Zalgo says as he pushes Scarlet with his foot closer to the throne. Scarlet receives a sharp pain in her stomach. Get the hell away from her, Brian said. Zalgo looked at Brian and walked towards him. He kneeled down in front of him. And what are you going to do about it? Zalgo asked. Brian didn't respond. Zalgo then pushed Brian in the face, knocking him out. Zalgo looked at Scarlet, then at Dennis. Zalgo walks over to Dennis and takes the crystal from him. He walks back to Scarlet and holds the crystal in front of her. Looking for this? Zalgo asked. Scarlet slowly looked at the crystal and attempts to reach her hand out to grab it. Zalgo pulls it back and slowly crumbles the crystal in his hands, allowing the dustified crystal to fall on the floor in front of Scarlet's eyes. Scarlet's memories hit her all at once. She looked at the memories she lived through, and the memories she was too young to see. Words for so many people from so many different times. Unknown blood type. Mr. Kinsey. What happened to my parents? Where's Daddy? Many voices went through her mind. Tears of gold fell down Scarlet's face. She's too powerful. She has the power to destroy all evil. Scarlet had read Dennis's mind. Dennis looked at her and nods, with a fulfilled smile on his face. No, Scarlet said in a weak voice. Zack and Balin look at Mary, as she is tied up next to them. Mary looks at Scarlet's parents. Mary? Zack whispered to Mary. Mary tilts her head, confused. Yes? Mary whispered. Balin's face turns red and smiles. I'm so sorry this is the way you meet us, Balin said. Mary, still confused. What do you mean? Mary asked. Balin looks at Zack and he slowly hands her a picture to hand to Mary. She gives the picture to Mary and she observes. The picture was Zack and Balin holding not just one but two babies. No one ever saw the baby pictures or babies of them as kids. Brian started to awake again. It makes sense now, Brian said as he attempts to get up. Zalgo looks at Brian and walks towards him. What are you talking about? Zalgo said. Mary looked at Scarlet, then back at Balin and Zack. Mom? Mary said aloud. Scarlet looks at Mary, and as Balin nods at her, Zalgo turned around at Mary and Balin. I have a sister? Scarlet said. Zalgo grinned. When I came back after fighting Stripes and Lucifer with Mike, I realized her power felt stronger, and now I know. It's because they work together, Brian said, hesitating to breathe. Lazari, looking around, slowly starts to understand. She starts to cry. Please stop this, Dad, Lazari says. Zalgo walks towards Lazari. Scarlet looks at Lazari's tears and attempts to get up slowly. I thought you didn't like the enemy. Are you all of a sudden feeling ashamed? Zalgo says. Puppeteer runs to Lazari and stands behind her. Lazari, this is what happens when the enemy takes something that's rightfully ours. You. Puppeteer said. Scarlet successfully stood up straight. Lazari is her own person. Scarlet struggled to stay. Zalgo turned around to see her standing. He puts a smirk on his face. Ben slowly starts to gain consciousness. Ugh, Ben said quietly. Zalgo looks at Herobrine and back at Scarlet. Then at slowly awakening Ben. If it's a battle you want, then it's a battle you have, Zalgo said as his strongest and best men came to fight. Zalgo pushes Scarlet lightly and she falls back on the floor. Ben starts to get up as him and Brian walk towards Scarlet. I might be weak, but, Scarlet said. Zalgo crosses his arms. But I'm stronger than I look, Scarlet said. Scarlet grabbed the black ball out of her pocket, using all of her strength to crush it. A black and crimson red light lifted Scarlet in the air, transforming her. What the hell is she doing? Zalgo said as he uncrossed his arms. Scarlet's body started to spin in the air. She kept spinning so much it caused an explosion of wind, causing everyone to fall on the ground. The black and crimson red lights continue to get brighter and brighter. Scarlet gets a set of black metallic wings that appeared on her back. Scarlet's eyes had turned crimson red. Her hair had turned black. She wears a crimson red shirt and short black pants. Scarlet received katanas, her ender pearls, and instead of a golden battle axe, a crimson red battle axe with a black handle. The light around Scarlet goes away as she looks at the ground. Zalgo starts to get up. Brian and Ben prepare to fight Zalgo's men. Game on, Scarlet said. Scarlet uses her ender pearls to teleport to Zalgo and herself to the center of the room. Scarlet pulls out her katanas as Ben and Brian start attacking Zalgo's men. Zalgo equips the claws from his fingers and two sharp tentacles from him behind himself. His mouth turns stretched. He was able to open his mouth so much it looked like his head wasn't attached anymore. Scarlet shakes her head and runs towards Zalgo with the katanas in her hand. Scarlet hides an ender pearl in her hand with the katana. She attempts to hit a back hit and throws an ender pearl behind him, vanishing behind him as he was about to attack. "The hell?" Zalgo said. Scarlet laughed. "Over here," Scarlet said. As Zalgo was turning around, Scarlet sliced his back with her katana. She used another ender pearl to get back to her original position. She looked at her katanas. "Maybe these can combine too," Scarlet said to herself. Scarlet looked at Zalgo and combined the two katanas. The katanas turned into some jousting sword with a weird turnable plate. Scarlet switches the dials on the plate and aims at Zalgo as he charges towards her. The sword creates an explosion of fire towards Zalgo. Zalgo doesn't get a scratch. He grabs Scarlet by the throat. "You stupid little girl. Fire does no damage on me," Zalgo says. Zalgo says as he places his claws right into her side, the same spot where she was scratched. Scarlet starts to squint her eyes as the blood and golden liquid from her body drip onto the ground. Scarlet grabs an ender pearl and throws it to the other side of the room. Ben looks at Scarlet as he's defeated one of Zalgo's men. Scarlet places her hand on the wall and holds onto her waist. Zalgo's claws drip gold and blood. Scarlet looks at Lazari and as she watched her suffering, but also unable to save her. She stood there crying. "Let me go," Lazari said, squirming to get Ellie and Sandy to let go. Zalgo looks at Lazari. "Lazari, knock it off," Zalgo said as he turned his head towards her. Scarlet regained her strength and threw an ender pearl behind Zalgo. Before Scarlet could reach her katana, Zalgo impales her with both his tentacles, one in her chest and one in her leg. Everyone started to squint their eyes, starting to cry. Scarlet soon became motionless and fell to the ground. "I guess I won," Zalgo said. "You monster," Mary said as she started to cry. Scarlet was still able to look around. She slowly placed her hand where her leg was. In surprise, her new power regenerated the skin and bones that had been damaged. Her skin started to quickly turn to gold after that. Scarlet became filled with rage and got back up. "Not yet, Zalgo," Scarlet said. Zalgo's shock turned around. There stood Scarlet, almost completely gold. Scarlet changes the dial on the jousting sword to wind. "How?" Zalgo demanded. Scarlet's sword created the power of wind, pushing him away. Scarlet's eyes started to glow red. Lazari bites Ellie's hand and makes her let go. She runs towards Scarlet. Lazari causes Scarlet to drop her sword and hugs her. Zalgo, sitting on the ground, looks at Lazari. Brian defeats the last two of Zalgo's men. "I'm sorry I bit Jack. I didn't mean to. I was scared. I was also hungry," Lazari says. Scarlet's red eyes stopped glowing and hugs Lazari back as she started to cry in her arms. Everyone watches. Ellie and Sandy look at each other and nod. They walk over and start to untie their captives. What are you doing?" Zalgo yelled as he got up. Sandy looked at Zalgo with disgust. Sandy walks over to Zalgo and points in his face. "How dare you do this to my cousin? Can't you tell she cares about her? And she cares about Lazari?" Sandy said. Scarlet, not noticing her surroundings, reads Lazari's mind. Lazari had told her a plan and read it aloud in her head. To get rid of him once and for all. Scarlet nodded. Scarlet let go of Lazari and held her hand behind her back, holding an ender pearl. Zalgo becomes full of rage. Lazari and Sandy go and finish untying everyone. Zalgo looks at Scarlet and charges towards her. "This is my castle, and I will not lose to some stupid girl," Zalgo yelled. Scarlet throws the ender pearls and fails to get into position. Zalgo had grabbed the ender pearl, causing Scarlet to vanish to him instead of behind him. Zalgo once again impaled Scarlet with the tentacles from both sides of her body. Zelgo then runs his claws through Scarlet's chest. Ben and Brian ran to Zelgo. "Why does no one listen to me when I say don't touch my sister?" Brian said. Right before they could attack, Zelgo's men were reinforced and held them back. They tied everyone up, including Lazari, Sandy, Ben, Brian, and Ellie. Puppeteer hid behind the throne, scared. Scarlet was impaled for the longest amount of time, unable to hear, causing her pain to get worse and worse. Zelgo grinned and smirked. He used his tentacles and threw her to the other side of the room. "No one messes with Zelgo," Zelgo said in a deep voice. Scarlet looks at her body as her powers had faded, leaving her in a puddle of golden blood. She started to cry from pain. "I just wanted..." Scarlet struggling to speak and breathe. Zelgo looks at the remains of her body. "My family," Scarlet said as her voice faded. Scarlet took her final breath and stopped moving. "No. No! What have you done?" Ben yelled. Ben struggled from the rope. "What have you done, Daddy?" Lazari says while crying. Everyone became upset. You monster," Mike said. Mike transforming once again, almost breaking the rope. "I'll kill you," Mike said. Zelgo looks at them and laughs. Mary stood there crying as she looked at the ground. "Why did you do it?" Mary said quietly as she cried. Everyone started to cry down to hear what Mary said. "What did you say?" Zelgo asked Mary as she slowly started to look up at Zelgo. "Why did you have to kill the one thing that made me happy?" Mary yelled. Zelgo grinned at Mary. "How can the one thing that makes you happy be someone who you didn't know was your sister?" Zelgo asked as he got in her face. Stripes and Lucifer soon entered through the doors. "We're back, and we brought someone's Lucifer paused herself as she looked around, seeing the blood and gold everywhere. Zelgo turns around and noticed that they're dragging someone. Ben looks at Brian. "How are you?" Ben said. "They are dragging Herobrine unconscious." He looked beat up and covered in burns. "How are there two of..." Zelgo said, noticing Balin and Zack quietly laughing. Zack looks at them and gets angry. He walks towards them. "What the hell are you two laughing about?" Zelgo said. Scarlet's finger starts to twitch. Lazari looks at Scarlet. Zelgo walks to Ben and Brian. "How the hell are you here and there at the same time?" Zelgo demanded. Herobrine chuckled as he got in his face. "I'm stronger than I look, you old hag," Herobrine announced. Zelgo becomes furious and grabs him by his throat. Herobrine winks, and as he vanishes, Scarlet's wings starts to twitch and move, causing some of the group to notice, including Mary. The body Lucifer had been dragging started to laugh. "You can't kill someone that's a god," Brian said. Brian vanishes from behind Lucifer to somewhere else. Scarlet starts to open her eyes slowly, looking at Lazari. Lazari puts the biggest smile on her face. Scarlet smiles and closes her eyes. "Wiggle your way to Mary and tell her to look at the shape in her pocket and try to crush it," Scarlet said in Lazari's mind. Lazari looks at Mary, only a few people away from her. "Where did he go?" Zelgo yelled. Lucifer and Stripes look around the castle. Stripes looks at Scarlet and Lazari as Lazari makes her way to Mary. He kneeled down and looked at her wings and katanas. Stripes then looked at his katana. "What are you doing? You're supposed to be looking for Herobrine, not his dead sister," Zelgo said. Stripe looked at Zelgo and paused. "She's not dead," Stripe said. Zelgo looks at him confused as Lazari becomes close enough to Mary. Scarlet said for you to check your pockets and break a shape," Lazari whispered. Mary looks at her confused and checked her pockets. She searched her front pockets and there was nothing. Mary then checked her back pockets to find a small 20-sided die. It looked like it had been in her pocket for the longest amount of time. The numbers on the die were already fading. She looked at Lazari and back at the die. "What are you two doing?" Zelgo asked. Zalgo walked over to Lazari and Mary. How did you get all the way over here, Lazari? Zalgo asked. Lazari looked at the ground and sighed. I just wanted to play. It's boring being tied up, Lazari said. Zalgo grinned. Scarlet gasped for air, causing Zalgo to turn away from Mary and Lazari. Why won't you just die? Zalgo said, walking towards Scarlet's body. Stripes looked at Zalgo and stood up. Now, Scarlet said, in Mary's mind. Mary looked around and quickly crushed the die. There was silence. There was no movement, no blinking, as if time froze. What just happened? Mary said. Mary looked around her and everyone was frozen. She looked at the rope, still wrapped around her. She stood there for a good amount of time, trying to think of a way out of the rope. What am I going to do? A voice said. It sounded like it was coming behind the throne. Mary looks at the throne. Is someone there? Mary called. Once again, it was silent. Mary wiggled her way out of the rope. She pushed downwards on the rope, hoping to pull herself out. She managed to budge and falls on the floor. Ow, Mary said. Mary looks around as she's still on the floor. She saw Zalgo's frozen body facing Scarlet. Mary got up and ran to Scarlet's body. Scar, I don't understand. I was just traveling with Mike in the woods and we just ran into you guys on our walk, Mary said. The man behind the throne peeks outwards and looks at Mary and Scarlet. There's so much going on that's giving me a headache and making me want to ask so many questions. How are we sisters? Why do I find that out now? Why did Mom and Dad give me up? Mary said as she started to cry. Her tears fell down from her cheeks to the ground, leaving the only sound to be heard was the sound of teardrops splashing on the floor. You told me to crush this weird object in my pocket that I didn't even know was there. I just don't know how to take it all in, knowing that as soon as time continues, you might be gone for good. The sound of Mary's voice is almost overlapped by the sound of splashing tears. The person came from behind the throne slowly. The man said. Mary quickly turned around to see who the man was. It was one of Lazari's friends. I'm Puppeteer, he said. Mary stared at him, shaking. I'm not going to hurt you. I heard you ask questions and wished there was a way they could be answered, so here I am, he said. Mary looked back at Scarlet and then slowly got up, walking towards Puppeteer. You weren't the only one abandoned. Scarlet was abandoned too, he said. Mary looked at Val and Jack. Why? Mary asked. Puppeteer sighed and started to walk closer. You both hold the power to destroy Zalgo and all that's ever been created. The only way you two would have found out Scarlet was your sister if you did the blood test like her. Rarest blood there can be, he said. Time slowly started to move again. Quickly, go back to your rope before he notices, he says, as he ran back behind the throne. Mary looked at Zalgo and slowly moving and stood there. It's my turn to protect her. I will not let her die, Mary said as she ran to Scarlet grabbing both of her katanas. Time started to move normally again. Everyone looked at one another and saw Mary was out. Stripes dropped his katana and placed his hands in the air. I'm out. I'm tired of fighting magic for one day, Stripes says as he walked in the hallway, continuing to search for Herobrine with Lucifer. Zalgo stopped in his place, shocked at what happened. He looked at the rope as everyone questioned how she got out so fast. How the hell did you escape? Zalgo yelled. He constantly looked at the rope and then back at Mary. He then stood up straight and grinned. What is a weakling like you going to do? Poke me with your katana? Oh no, I'm going to die. You can't kill me, Zalgo said as he started to walk towards her. Scarlet began to groan of pain. Try again, Scarlet said to Mary. Mary looked at Scarlet, then quickly back at Zalgo. She placed herself in a blocking position, using the katanas as a shield. You can do it, Mary. I believe in you, Mike said. Mary smiled in joy, believing in herself. Mary started to run towards Zalgo, squinting her eyes. She, too, started to transform. Mary had changed. Her hair was blue with a pink streak. She had blue gloves covered in thorns. Her shirt had changed to pink with red trims of roses. She had blue shorts. Her shoes were both pink and blue, with rose thorns as laces. On her side were 2 red daggers with pink, bright handles glowing. On her back had katanas laced in thorns and roses. Mary's pupils changed to roses. Mary quickly sneaks to the left of Zalgo and distracts him with her movement. Mary uses the katanas and uses one to slice his chest and one to cut the legs. Zalgo's eyes followed her face, mistakenly not for her hands. Scarlet started to slowly get up her caution. Mary pushes him forward onto the ground. Mary then combines the katana and turns the dial on the sword to ice. She quickly hit the sword at his feet, causing him to be frozen to the ground. Some of Zalgo's reinforcements attempted to join the battle, and one got close to Scarlet. Mary ran all the way to Scarlet and sliced the head off one of Zalgo's men. Zalgo becomes filled with rage. A bright beam of light came from Scarlet, causing her to float in the air. What's happening? Lazari asked. Dennis looked at Scarlet, concerned. We're out of time! Dennis yelled. Zack and Balin looked at Dennis. The beam of light became brighter and brighter. Scarlet's wings start to spread out as the metal wings started shooting its sharpened blade-like feathers at Zalgo's, each one successfully taking a shot at him. Zalgo was done for. He stopped moving completely. Lazari looked at Zalgo and felt like she should be crying. She took a deep breath and relaxed. Mary ran to Zack and started to untie everyone. Scarlet slowly fell to the ground. Her wings had gone away, along with her powers. She was wearing the clothes she had worn before they left. Her body was completely golden. Puppeteer soon came out from behind the throne, and Brian came out from hiding. He jumps off the ceiling, slamming his fist into the floor. Daddy has his castle back, Brian said. Trevor came from behind him and gave him a hug. Brian hugged him back. Soon all of Zalgo's men started to change. They were changing to human-like figures. One of them wakes up from being unconscious. Where are my manners? Welcome home, my king, he said. Brian's servants had been placed under a spell by Zalgo to make him think Zalgo was his king. Dennis, Mavis, Zack, Balin, and everyone ran to Scarlet. Mary sighs. How can we save her if the crystal is broken? Rake said. Mike looks at Dennis. Dennis? The stone, Mike said. Everyone started to look at Mike and Dennis. Dennis quickly grabs the stone of immortality. Dennis walks over and sits next to Scarlet's body. I hope this will still work, Dennis says as he looks at Mike. He then looks back at Scarlet and dripped her blood onto the stone. Nothing happened at first. It was silent. Mary starts to become upset. She gets up and hugs Mike, crying in his arms. Ben held on to Kaylee and held her tightly. Brian and Trevor and Mavis all look at the ground. Lazari stared at Scarlet and sat next to her. She looked at everyone being upset. Lazari then looked back at Scarlet and lightly tapped her shoulder. Wakey, wakey, Lazari said. Mary slowly looked at Lazari, and so did everyone else. Lazari said. Lazari tapped Scarlet's shoulder again. Scarlet's golden hair and skin started to fade away. She started to cough. Scarlet, Dennis shouted. Everyone stopped crying and surrounded Scarlet. Kaylee sat next to Lazari and Ben. As Ben sat Scarlet up, using himself as a support for her. Scarlet slowly opens her eyes and looks around. She yawns. Did I oversleep this morning? Scarlet asks. Scarlet looks at Kaylee and Lazari, then at Dennis. Everyone starts to feel better. Someone mind telling me where we are? Scarlet asked. Dennis laughed. Don't worry about it. A crowd of people could be heard outside. Where? Where is she? It was Slenderman, and he had brought everyone as he was going to fight Zalgo. Slendy pauses and looks over at Zalgo's dead body, then at Scarlet. What's Slendy doing here? Scarlet asked. Mary looked at Slenderman and hid. I'm meeting way too many damn people today, Mary said. A few people came walking down the hallway. Ow, my head. It was Stripes and Lucifer complaining. Ugh, I can't see a damn thing, Stripes said. He rubbed his eyes and looked at Brian. King Herobrine, welcome home, my king, Stripes said. Lucifer looked at Stripes and began bowing. Slendy looks at Lucifer and Stripes, confused as hell. What the bloody blazes happened in here? Slendy said. Jack and Jeff walk over to Scarlet. So did everyone else. Moments later, 2 more people came from the hallways. It was Hoodie and some girl. Jane! Lulu said. Where are we? Jane said to Hoodie. Lulu ran to Jane and hugged her tightly. Hoodie ran over to Masky. I missed you, brother, Masky said. Masky hugs Hoodie tightly. Lazari turns around and sees Jeff, Slendy, and Jack behind her. Hey there, sillyhead, Jack said. Lazari smiled and got up, running to Jack and giving him a hug. You're okay, Lazari said. Jack smiled at her. Surrender and Sally walked behind Slendy and examined what's going on. Hey, Lazari, Surrender said. Sandy and Ellie look at Lazari and walk over to Scarlet. Sandy holds Scarlet's hand. I am so sorry for how my uncle acted. If I knew what actually happened, I would have stopped it instantly, Sandy said. Scarlet looks at her confused. Scarlet looks at Ben and back at Sandy. Thank you, I guess? What did your brother do? Or your uncle? Scarlet asked in confusion. Dennis looked at Scarlet. Sweetheart, what's the last thing you remember? Valen asked, as she walked towards Scarlet, holding her hand. Scarlet looks at the floor beside her. I remember making cookies, Scarlet said. Lazari laughed. They were good, by the way, Lazari said. Scarlet smiled as she looked at her. Scarlet placed her hand on the ground and got up. Are you sure you're okay to walk? Ben asked. Scarlet looked at Ben with more confusion. Why are you guys acting so weird today? I'm perfectly fine, Scarlet said. Scarlet started hearing footprints come from the second hallway. It looked to be a woman. Scarlet walked towards the hallway as everyone watched. Where is she going? Lazari asked. Scarlet stopped at the hallway. The woman looked at Scarlet and placed her hands over her face. Is that my little Scarlet? The woman asked. Scarlet smiled and tears ran down her face. The woman ran to Scarlet, giving her a big hug. It was Rense. Scarlet hugged her back and cried, I missed you so much, Rense, Scarlet said. As tears fell down her cheek, Rense smiled so wide. I know, sweetie. I missed you too, Rense says. Ben walks over. Well. So this is the fantastic Rense I've been hearing about, Ben said, with Rense still smiling. She has Jen join the hug. Everyone looked at each other and smiled. I think it's time to go home, Slendy said. Everyone agreed. Dennis used his potions and opened up portals to everyone. People waved goodbye and gave big hugs. Trevor and Mavis went to their treehouse with Valen and Jack. Slendy holds Lazari's hands. Lazari, I never wanted to scare you about what I said. I was only listening to what a friend told me. You should know I would have tried everything to make you happy, to make you stay with us, I guess, Slendy said. Lazari looks at the ground and back at Slendy. Oh, I forgive you, Lazari hugged Slendy. I can't be mad at you forever, she says. Lazari and Slenderman hold hands as they went home. Ben held onto Scarlet tightly. I'll be home soon. I just have some catching up to do, Scarlet said. Ben smiled. I know, but I'm glad that you're still alive, Ben said. Scarlet rolled her eyes. Maybe you can actually tell me what happened when I get home, Scarlet said to Ben. Ben stopped and nodded. He placed his hand on her cheek and tilted her head. He then kissed her. He waved goodbye and goes through. Scarlet looks at Brian. Are you sure you don't want to stay here? Scarlet asked. Ben smiled and walked up to Scarlet. Of course I'm going to come back, but right now I have a kingdom to take care of, Brian said. Scarlet smiled. See you soon, brother, Scarlet said. Scarlet and Renze started to walk outside the castle. They looked around here, Brian's kingdom. This is so beautiful, Scarlet said. Renze smiled. Renze looked to her side to see a box. It was labeled with Scarlet's name. She picked up the box and handed it to Scarlet. Found this while we were walking, Renze said. Scarlet looked at the box and smiled. Some of the creatures came around to see her open the box. Scarlet opened it. There held a book and a few photos. There was also a card on the book. It said, Happy birthday, Scarlet. Don't read the card till you open the book, Scarlet said. Scarlet looked at the pictures. It was her and a boy when she was young. The boy looked like Ben at first. She looked at the next photo. It was Brian holding me and another baby. She suspected it was Trevor, but was with a pink blanket like mine. There was one more picture that had Brian and Sasha holding a baby with a blue blanket wrapped around them. Scarlet started to get confused. Scarlet grabbed the book and opened it. There was a crystal inside the book. Scarlet opened the card and read it to herself. Dear Scarlet, I'm sorry I never told you the truth. I was asked to protect you and I wanted to tell you. I'm sorry that you having to find out this way, that I'm your godmother. Your father was a good friend of mine. He wanted me to be there for you for your birth, so I was. I took these photos of you and your siblings. He wanted me to keep you and Mary, but after Brian died, people started hunting for you both. Your mother put Mary up for adoption and gave you to me. I hope that one day we'll get this and we will see each other again. I hope you can forgive me, my dear. I love you. Love, Renze. Scarlet looked at Renze and smiled. Scarlet looked at the taped crystal out of the book. A string fell down from the crystal. It was attached to it. Renze helped Scarlet put the crystal around her neck. It's beautiful, Scarlet said. Renze smiled and they continued walking. Hours later, Renze and Scarlet made it to the treehouse. They had worked on the treehouse since Zalgo destroyed it. The treehouse wasn't just connected to one, but now 4 trees. 2 out of the trees held 2 bedrooms each, connecting each other with bridges to the main tree. The main house was now bigger with the 2 trees. The boys had created a bigger kitchen, a bigger living room, and another bathroom. There was another door in the house. Kaylee finally had her own bedroom with toys and such. There was a balcony that went off her bedroom, along with the other bedrooms. Everyone was so happy to be back together. Brian even came to help with the final touches. That same day, a cake was placed in front of me, and it said, Happy birthday, Scarlet. This was the best day of my life. I hope that now that my life is back together, there will be no more evil. Happy birthday to you. Voices said aloud in the kitchen. Everyone was there. Sandy, Ellie, Lucifer and Stripes, Sasha and Brian, Mike and Mary, and everyone from Slendy's place. It was so much joy. Happy birthday to you. The voices started to get deeper for some reason. Scarlet looked around smiling. Happy birthday to Scarlet. Their lips were moving, but I could only hear one deep voice. Scarlet looked around and stared at the window. Happy birthday to you, the man said. The room around Scarlet became dark and everyone faded. The man standing at the window gave me a shiver. It was Zalgo. Lazari had used a sound maker next to her ear. Scarlet shook her head and covered her ear, looking at Lazari. The room was back to normal and everyone was clapping and saying happy birthday to her. Make a wish, Ben said, placing his hands on Scarlet's shoulder. Scarlet looks around and smiles. She takes a deep breath and blows out the candles. Everyone cheered. Time for the beginning of the new year, Mary said. Mary gave Scarlet a hug while she looked back at the window. He was gone. And that is the end of the Vampire Shard. So you guys can tell me how you think. I am probably going to work hours upon hours doing a voiceover because I do have some people that I said I would be doing a script for a while back and never got back to them, and they said they would still do the script for me. So I'll have my script go out. I'll try to see if I can use Gotcha for the movie, but it's going to be a little bit hard since I can't do this animated like how I have it right now. And I see it's actually lagging a little bit. So you guys can tell me what you think of it. I know that if you put your volume on blast on some of them, you can hear what I'm saying. It'd be nice actually to know if you guys liked it or not. Yeah. You guys let me know. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time. And maybe, just maybe, you know what? I'll do it right now. You guys get a secret welcoming. I'm only reading the first 2 sentences of the new Vampire Shard that will be coming out later. It's been 3 years since the incident. Scarlet is 20 now, and so are Trevor and Mavis. Mavis decided to dye her hair a natural color. Her and Trevor still treat each other like siblings. And that is all I'm going to say. That is a part of the newest book that I am currently working on, the Vampire Shard, Zalgo's Revenge. I hope you guys like the Vampire Shard so much, so please leave a like in the video, subscribe, comment, message me, add me on Roblox, do something with my life. Yeah. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.